Yo, 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 welcome to Beyond the Junkyard. We rock the boat and sweeten the sauce here. I'm your host, Junkyard James, and this is the podcast that'll cut through the noise, call out the BS, and shine a light on what's real in the world of pro wrestling. If you're fed up, fired up, and ready for something better, well, you're in the right place. Today, I want to make a plea and an appeal to all of you disgruntled WWE fans out there. Yes, you still fuming over that WrestleMania main event. This week, I'm throwing out an open invite. Tune in this Wednesday to AEW Dynamite, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, on TBS and simulcast on Max. Why? Because All Elite Wrestling is serving up the kind of action, storytelling, and respect for the fans that WWE has long left in the dust. Grab a seat, crank up the volume, let's go Beyond the Junkyard. Stick around, we're going to dive into the fallout of WrestleMania and give you a peek at how you can jump ship to AEW, a promotion that actually gets it. This is going to be a wild ride. Let's do this.
Beyond the junkyard echoes roar, shattered dreams and bloodstains pour, grit and glory all from war, battle cries forevermore.
And this is the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I am your host, Junkyard James. And it smells like Vince Russo in here on this Monday morning. I wanted to sleep on this before I recorded this episode, talking about WrestleMania, a 2-night extravaganza, some may say. And I'll be completely upfront before talking about this show. I missed the majority of Saturday night. I didn't watch all but the main event, which to some people that I'm friends with might have been a good thing. See, I was in Rockingham, North Carolina, watching history unfold as NASCAR is back at Rockingham Speedway for the first time in over 7,000 days. And so it was a good time there, and I got back just in time to watch Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Roman Reigns. And we'll get into the the match. Excuse me, match card here shortly. But I want to make this appeal early on in the show, as I said in the intro, that if you are a WWE fan and you feel as if this show it didn't fit what you expected WWE to be, especially WrestleMania weekend, there is an alternative. I posted this exact tweet on social media after the show, and I always do this when I have a sense of like a bad taste in my mouth after a WWE premium live event, and I always post something like sort of like this. This is what I said on social media: WWE fans, if you have a bad taste in your mouth after the ending of tonight's WrestleMania, I have good news. There's an alternative company that's putting on good wrestling shows. It's called AEW. They have a weekly TV show every Wednesday and Saturday on TBS, TNT, and streaming on Max. Their next pay-per-view is AEW Double or Nothing, It's Memorial Day weekend in Phoenix, and now's a good time to watch the build to that show. You're free to join the bandwagon. All are welcome. See, I think the notion that I get and AEW fans get in general is that we gatekeep the product to say who can join the AEW bandwagon. I'm opening the gates. If you feel as if WWE insulted your intelligence, as I myself felt, especially with Night 2's main event, that I was insulted as a fan, that my intelligence was insulted as a fan, there is a company that cares about you, that cares about logic, that cares about long-term booking and not just crash booking or whatever the hell this John Cena heel turn has become. Because to be completely honest, is he the heel? Or is he just a tweener who used The Rock to get what he wants? And see, maybe John Cena was telling the truth when he said he's not a face, he's not a heel, he's just a human. and maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the story they're going with. But nonetheless, that match last night, the main event of WrestleMania, the main event, the last thing you see as part of the WrestleMania programming, was an absolute travesty. Just a terrible match. One of the worst matches I think I've ever seen ever on a WrestleMania card. So like I said, I did not watch Saturday's show except for the main event. I thought the main event was, it saved the show from what I'm hearing. And so I like to look at Cage Match for AEW shows and WWE shows to see, because I really do care about the fan perception. I really do care to see how people feel about the show. And if AEW gets a bad rating on this, I'm going to share it as if WWE gets a bad rating, and vice versa for the good ratings. WrestleMania Saturday is currently sitting at a total ranking on Cage Match with 415 votes at a 5.69 out of 10 on Cage Match for Saturday night. I'm looking at the match times for these matches. Not a single match outside of the triple threat main event went over 20 minutes. On a, call it, 4-hour pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever the hell you want to call it now, you get one match that goes over 30, that's the main event, and no other match goes over 20, and most matches don't even hit 10 minutes. So what are you doing with the rest of the time? You look to Sunday, and it's the same damn thing. Outside of Cody Rhodes and John Cena, no other match goes over 20 minutes. We had like 90 minutes of wrestling on a 4-hour card. And people want to bitch and moan and complain about AEW's pay-per-views being long. But at least they give you wrestling the whole time. We get a 4-hour show and it's just half full of advertisements. I would have been pissed if I spent my life savings to go to WrestleMania and I get 95 minutes of wrestling on each night. You have 8 hours of wrestling programmed set aside for the weekend, and you get 55% of its advertising. I think it's about time. And before we even break into breaking down the card, because, like, let's just be honest, I don't want to get into that game of breaking down the matches. I want to talk about WWE outside of the match card, but, like, overall. Like, this weekend had to have been a bust for WWE. Like, you can't look at this weekend and say it was a successful weekend for WWE. Social media will not allow this weekend to go down as some grand event. And it wasn't a grand event. You look at Sunday on a cage match, it's not much better than the 5.69 Saturday has. Now, granted, it had less votes and less time for people to vote, but it's currently sitting at a 5.74. So it was just a little bit better, but not a whole lot. Now, my opinion of night 2 is the show was pretty damn good up until the main event. I put in a Discord that I'm in that around the time I think of Randy Orton's match, that I was thoroughly enjoying WrestleMania Night 2. In fact, it was probably like an 8 out of 10 on my scale up until the Logan Paul match started. And that match was okay, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't 5-star in the Tokyo Dome. I think it was just a match. Becky comes out to tag team with Lyra, and they didn't put on a spectacle. Though they didn't really have the time to. The match only went 8.5 minutes. Couldn't do a whole lot with that time. So just overall, I think WWE has to change the catchphrase of WrestleMania. It's no longer the showcase of the immortals, where we show you the best of what wrestling could be. Instead, nowadays, WrestleMania has to be known as the showcase of the investors, because that's all we got. Every match had a sponsor. Every match had a mascot, some dude dressed up in dude wipe costume or a Capri Sun costume. Every match had some sort of investor-related advertising. And it's obvious now the focus of WrestleMania is for it to be a place where they showcase who their partners are, make the investors happy. Oh, we'll throw in a little bit of wrestling because that's what the fans pay to see, but that's not the showcase anymore. The showcase is, look at all these partners we have. And that's the distinct difference between AEW and WWE. It wouldn't surprise me at all if sometime in the future WWE doesn't even show wrestling. It's just one large soap opera with a lot of product placement. It wouldn't shock me at all. They don't give a damn about wrestling anymore. They don't care. There's no reason to. They're making a lot of money and they're proud to show off how they're making their money. And I get it, it's business. It's business, right? WrestleMania used to be the highlight of the year for wrestling. And this may have gone down as one of the worst WrestleMania shows of all time, to people who actually give a damn about wrestling. And see, this is where the disconnect is. WWE is fully invested on pandering their product not only to their investors but to casual fans who don't understand the history behind anything. The mockery that this WrestleMania made of WrestleMania moments of the past. They want to showcase Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin as a Hall of Fame moment. Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart's WrestleMania moment would not happen in today's WWE. They're making a mockery of the sport we love. But AEW respects the history, respects the sport, respects your intelligence, is willing to maybe not give you the result you want, as we saw with Swerve Strickland losing to Jon Moxley at Dynasty, but at least the damn story makes sense. At least we can see where Tony Khan is leading us to. We get here, and I looked it up. Every title swapped hands, with the exception of Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton. Every title that was defended, except those two belts, changed hands. And so, for what is supposed to be where all the stories end, and the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania is where stories pick up and begin, there doesn't seem to be a story for your main title. It's on John Cena. There's no... where does The Rock fit into this stuff? They didn't leave us on a cliffhanger. They just cut the story off. That's why it smells like Vince Russo. It smells like crash booking. It smells like they're just writing this 1 week at a time, and there's really no flow between what happened last week or what happened 2 weeks ago to what may happen tonight on Monday Night Raw. And so John Cena wins the belt because a 140-pound rapper that looks like if Cody Rhodes actually took him on in a fight, he could bend over and break in half. Is Cody Rhodes kryptonite? Cody Rhodes last year, when he wins the belt, had to go through literally Thanos' army and the bloodline. But Travis Scott has some sort of power over Cody Rhodes to where he's the one that can stop Cody from beating John Cena. It makes no sense. And you want to bitch and moan and complain about the Death Riders on AEW. What's going on in the main title scene now? Yeah, and I'll be the first to say Cody Rhodes, his title run, his 370 plus day title run, it wasn't special. He didn't do a lot. He didn't move the needle a whole lot. He might have sold more merch and all of that, but in terms of the product, it didn't really move the needle. And I'm not even really upset that John Cena won, and it would have made sense, though, as if The Rock showed up or Cody had help. The one time that I was expecting them to be super uber theatric and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse like, they weren't. Travis Scott comes in, Cody hits Travis Scott with the crossroads, and then Cena just comes in, and they're playing this, oh, well, Cody has to decide if he wants to be a good guy or a bad guy, and Cena's not afraid to be a bad guy. It's just terrible storytelling. There's no purpose behind this. Why was Rock even involved in the first place? Why did Cena have to turn heel? Because if you listen to the crowd, it seems like they're just done with Cody. I thought it was an AEW crowd for a minute. All the boos that Cody Rhodes got. John Cena got cheered as a heel. That's a bad look for a company that supposedly cares about storytelling and character development. When your bad guy's getting cheered, you're doing something wrong. You would never dare see Jon Moxley get a cheer at Double or Nothing, or at All In, or any other match. Jon Moxley's not getting cheers. He's getting booed out of the building. And he's supposed to. He's the bad guy. John Cena's supposed to be this bad guy. And he's getting cheered. And the good guy's getting booed. It's a bad look. It's a bad image. And I don't know if there's anything they can do to salvage this. Because the story... Well, there's not really a story in the first place. They didn't give you any build to why the match even made sense. Why did Cena turn? Why couldn't it have been Cena versus Cody? And Cena just won straight up. Like, let's see who the best man is. This is the best of the eras. Like, I'm not even mad that Cena won the belt. It just didn't make sense the way that they did it. But let's take a moment, real quick, to talk about the weekend in general. Because this is always a big weekend. WrestleMania weekend is always a big weekend, not only for WWE, but for the indie scene and a lot of other things. Because there was a lot of good stories that came out of WrestleMania weekend that had nothing to do with WWE. And there were a lot of stories that came out this weekend that aren't so good news. And I want to take a moment, turn away from WrestleMania, take a bird's eye view of the weekend. Brody Lee Jr. showed up at Joey Janela's show on Saturday night or early Sunday morning. I'm not quite sure. I think it was Saturday night. Brody Lee Jr., the young kid, son of Brody Lee, made his in-ring debut, beating Joey Janela and Megan Bayne as the final three contenders of their over-the-top rope eliminator match. So Brody Lee's 1-0 in his wrestling, or Brody Lee Jr.'s 1-0 in his wrestling career. Chris Bay walked him out to the ring. That was a special moment. That's what I love about indie wrestling, is you can do stuff like that and just make those memorable moments where Brody Lee Jr. will never forget that moment, probably for the rest of his life. And so that was probably like the moment of the week for me, was seeing that, and I hope Brody Lee Jr. actually pursues an actual in-ring career once he's old enough to start training and getting into pro wrestling. And so that was that. There was also some really good wrestling outside of WWE. I didn't watch a whole lot of it this weekend, just simply because of how busy the weekend was. But I did watch Revolution Pro Wrestling, Rev Pro's high stakes event, with the main event of Kanji versus Mercedes Moné for the Rev Pro British Women's Championship. And let me just be honest with you. Rev Pro's maybe one of the best indie promotions in all of the world. Really good wrestling. The double main event was just fire. Those two matches combined Michael Oku and Leon Slater and Kanji and Mercedes Moné, those two matches just by themselves were better than the whole WrestleMania weekend WWE put on. Sorry, I'm just going to be honest with you. Those were two very good matches. And I want to go on the limb and talk a little bit about Mercedes Moné here for a minute. She's the best women's wrestler in the world right now. She is. She puts on, what does Sheamus say? Banger after banger. Every single time she steps foot in the ring, she gives a match that seemingly tops the previous match she does. You think Wednesday she fought Athena, and everybody thought there's no way she could top a match this week. That match with her and Athena was top notch. Maybe women's match of the year. She goes on and fights Kanji and puts on another match of the year candidate. It was just so good. Mercedes Moné is not relegated to one style of wrestling. She's just so open to try a mixture of all styles of wrestling, and it just makes her moveset so interesting to watch, because you're not getting a wash, rinse, repeat every single match with Mercedes Moné. You get a different match every time she steps into the squared circle. And so Mercedes Moné, I'm sorry, you can hate me for saying this, she's the best women's wrestler, not only now, in this generation, she's the best women's wrestler, in my opinion, of all time, just because of how diverse her skill set is, how much she cares about the business, how much she cares about the fans, how much she cares about growing women's wrestling. Like, the women's revolution in WWE was a big moment, and she was a part of that. But this global revolution of women's wrestling is being spearheaded with Mercedes Moné on the front lines, and she takes a lot of shit from these WWE fans who think she sold out and left on bad terms because what she didn't want to put up with Vince's and WWE's shitty booking of her. And she's grown herself that she doesn't need WWE anymore. Like, there were people that were like, well, WWE put her on the map. She's too big for WWE right now. I don't know if they could ever afford the price tag that she's worth. She is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. And she's just getting started in this business. People like to talk about, well, Mercedes Moné loves to play that creative control and she's never going to put anybody over. Given this weekend, Becky Lynch took 2 bumps and won a match. She didn't put anybody over. No complaints from the WWE fans on that, by the way. But I think the biggest story I want to talk about, and then I'll briefly talk about some of the good things WWE put on this weekend. There were a couple good matches. The event overall was terrible, but they had a couple good matches in between. Sometimes a broken clock strikes the correct time. But let's talk about the big story of WrestleMania weekend that I think does more damage than what WrestleMania did for the storylines of WWE. This story does more damage to the wrestling industry than that just absolute clusterfuck of a WrestleMania. And that is WWE made the announcement before WrestleMania started on Saturday on their pre-show that they have acquired Lucha Libre Mexican professional wrestling promotion Triple A, and will host a joint event in June called Worlds Collide the same weekend of Money in the Bank in Los Angeles. Triple A, What was once seen as the premier Mexican lucha libre wrestling promotion just got bought out by the Fed. This Fox Business article that I'm reading from reads, the announcement sent shockwaves throughout the pro wrestling world as WWE has leaned into the luchador style of wrestling with the signings of Penta and Rey Fenix, as well as the push for the so-called El Grande Americano masked wrestler who fans are 99.9% sure is Chad Gable. Paul Levesque, Triple H, told reporters the intent is to, quote, grow lucha libre, and he pointed to the impact that the style of pro wrestling has had in Central and Southern America and parts of the United States. When I think of Mexico, I think AAA. I think lucha libre opens the door for those athletes as well, not only to grow and be the biggest they can in lucha and everything else, but I think desires are going to grow beyond that. There's places in the world where sports entertainment is culturally significant to them. We're not looking to take away from that culturally significant product. We're looking to enhance it, grow it, and make it bigger, and give opportunities for talent to grow. This is bullshit. This is just all bullshit. Whatever Paul Levesque is saying right here, whatever Triple H is saying, is all bullshit. They don't give a damn about lucha libre, except when it makes them money. Look at how they treated Rey Fenix in his first WrestleMania. He jobbed out to Chad fucking Gable. No disrespect to Chad Gable, he's a great wrestler. But it was just 2 or 3 years ago, the Lucha Bros, Penta and Rey Fenix, was in a packed stadium of 81,000 fans in London, England, for AEW All in London, where they put on a banger of a match, quite I say. And now they're jobbing out at WrestleMania. And it makes sense now why Conan was pushing for Rey Fenix and Penta to go to WWE. It makes sense now. While he was helping them air grievances out about AEW online. Because obviously the idea behind it was to prop up this acquisition. They don't give a damn about how great the Lucha Brothers are and the history of pro wrestling. They're just going to use them as a culturally significant piece so that they can give the perception that they give a damn about Lucha Libre. They don't give a damn. This is terrible for the pro wrestling world. The Sportster writes, and I agree. Sean Van Horn of the Sportster published this about a day or so ago. Talking about this acquisition. And this is what he has to say. If you're a casual wrestling fan, you might be wondering what the hell is AAA. Along with CMLL, it's the top lucha libre promotion in all of Mexico, founded in 1992. Became a hot spot for different kind of wrestling you didn't see in America outside of peak days of Nitro and the cruiserweight division. Young Rey Mysterio wrestled there, as did Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis, La Parca in the mid-90s before joining WCW. WCW had a joint pay-per-view with AAA called When Worlds Collide, which seemingly is probably where they got this name for this joint pay-per-view that's going on in June. In the 2000s, they worked with TNA, They struggled financially and were significantly hurt by the COVID pandemic. They have, these days are still going, have a few big names like El Hijo de Vikingo, Alberto El Patron, who is currently the AAA Mega Champion. El Patron is the former Alberto Del Rio, who was accused of physical abuse of his former girlfriend, Soraya. He was also arrested for battery and sexual assault of another girlfriend, though those charges were dropped. This is the big piece. WWE is monopolizing pro wrestling, he says. WWE buying AAA is not a good look for them or pro wrestling survival outside of Endeavor and TKO. It's not only reminiscent of WWE buying WCW and ECW 2 decades ago, but it's just the latest proof of what the goal is today. WWE wants to take over every market. It's not too far off from Vince McMahon destroying the territories in the early 1980s. Not too long ago, WWE started NXT UK, which really hurt the UK indie scene as WWE took much of their top talent. NXT UK only went under because of the COVID pandemic. In 2020, they purchased the American indie promotion Evolve, which recently became a show on Tubi. Then they started WWE ID, with the goal being to take indie wrestlers and give them a path forward to working with the WWE. Triple H and his company aren't just after big promotions anymore. It seems as if they're going after the smaller ones too. It's not just about working with TNA, which has been much more of an advantage for WWE than TNA, he writes. But now it's about going into smaller American indie companies, and now one of Mexico's top spots, to take their talent and put them under the WWE banner. And it may not stop there. The Rock recently grabbed headlines after he posted a video to social media wearing a New Japan Pro Wrestling shirt while looking quizzically at a Rubik's Cube. Many fans thought he was trying to insinuate that he was trying to figure out how to buy New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is the last thing wrestling needs. Partnering with wrestling companies to work together like AEW does New Japan Pro Wrestling and CMLL is fun and beneficial for everyone involved, but WWE wanting to own everything will destroy it. Indie and luchador wrestling still has that romantic feel to it. It's about the art of the sport and nothing else. WWE's massive corporate sports entertainment fingerprints all over everything will ruin that. WWE is already big enough. A wrestling monopoly will only turn fans who don't like WWE away from what has been their only alternatives. Listen, I agree with everything that was said in this article. This is bad for pro wrestling. For the same reason AEW is good and competition creates advantages, it allows more wrestlers to grow. WWE now expanding and trying to become this global empire is bad for pro wrestling. Bad for the indie scene. Bad for alternatives. Bad for wrestlers who are just getting their start, but WWE doesn't see anything special with them. Imagine a world where AEW doesn't exist. You know who wouldn't be in the WWE if AEW didn't exist? Jade Cargill. Stephanie Vakir. Julia. They only got the WWE's recognition because of independent wrestling and alternatives like AEW and New Japan. It took 16 damn years for them to sign AJ Styles. And this is what I've been saying about WWE for a while now. They don't give a damn about the industry. They want to monopolize the industry. It's all about money to them. It's all about power. It's all about prestige. It's all about showing that they're the top dogs. Everybody keeps saying that Triple H's WWE is so different than Vince McMahon's WWE. And I hate CM Punk, but he got one thing right. That when Vince retired and Hunter took over, it was just going to be the same damn thing. They're running the industry into the ground. And they're expanding into markets where they have no business being in. They're taking over territories that they have no business taking over. So this is the biggest story for me because it gives me a clear picture of what TKO and what WWE's main agenda is. And it's, we're going to take over the wrestling industry. We don't want competition. We don't want alternatives. We want to be the only people sitting at the table. We want everything. We want to be the only option you have. And we saw what happened when they bought WCW and they bought ECW. And TNA was really their only competition, but they really couldn't compete. The product got stale. Viewership dropped. How did we go from the Attitude Era and over 4 to 5 million people watching on a weekly basis to now Monday Night Raw can barely get 1.5 million people? Well, it's because people lost interest because they were buying up all of these companies, taking all the top talent, and just destroying the wrestling industry. Wrestling's pretty cool again. And it's only gotten cool again because AEW showed up. So again, here's my plea. If you're looking for an alternative, if you're looking for a wrestling promotion that actually gives a damn about wrestling and not being a big investor showcase, not flaunting off celebrities as if they give a damn about what they're watching, AEW might be the place for you. And now listen, there's not going to be people you may not know. But this is a good time as we have about a month and a half or so. We have about a month of build leading up into Double or Nothing. This is the perfect time for somebody who doesn't know anything about AEW to tune in this Wednesday on TBS or on Max and figure out if you like AEW. Figure out if this might be the alternative you're looking for. Because it smells like Vince Russo in the Fed. It smells like they gave him a job as some sort of advisor. It smells like WCW in 2000. Where all they care about is trying to flaunt who they could get to show up to the show, and the wrestling itself was an afterthought. If you care about the in-ring work, AEW might be the place for you. If you care about storytelling that makes logical sense, AEW might be the place for you. If you care about a wrestling company who doesn't insult your intelligence, AEW might be the place for you. WrestleMania 41 did one thing for me. It secured my belief that AEW and Tony Khan saved pro wrestling. Because what we're getting now is equivalent to what we were getting in 2018 and 2019 in WWE. Bland, boring storytelling. The world champions are part-timers. big pieces of big storylines don't even show up on a weekly basis. And Tony Khan said I had to do something to save the product I grew up loving. And he put AEW together with the Elite. And thank God he did. Thank God he did. Because I wouldn't be recording this podcast right now if it wasn't for Tony Khan. Because I wouldn't have given a damn about WrestleMania this year. I was a few months away back in 2019 from never watching wrestling again. Because WWE was just terrible in 2018. And they announced All Elite Wrestling in 2019. And I had something to look forward to. I didn't know all of the wrestlers that they were signing when I first started watching AEW. I knew a few of them. I knew the top guys. I knew Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the Lucha Bros. I knew all of them from watching New Japan and AAA and all of the indie stuff that I watched over the years. I didn't know them all. But looking back, wrestling exists in the way it does because AEW was formulated. And so maybe WrestleMania 41 is the last straw that broke the camel's back for some of you WWE fans who were holding on for dear life that maybe they could give a memorable moment at WrestleMania. Well, they didn't. They gave you bland, boring, rinse, wash, repeat. Now, I'll be honest. We look back in November and December of this year when I get on the Slap and Meat Wrestling podcast and we do our end of the year best ofs, that women's triple threat match is going to get serious consideration for women's match of the year. It was a really good match. Night 2 up until the middle part of the show, I really thoroughly enjoyed. The back half of the show, Steve Austin came out and wrecked that ATV, hit the barricade, maybe elbowed a fan in the face. And maybe that was a prophecy of the main event crashing and burning. Because that main event, it just left a nasty taste in my mouth. It was awful. Like, I'm not even a hardcore WWE fan. And it left a nasty taste in my mouth. I can't imagine if you invest Mondays and Fridays watching the product just for that to be the result. I don't know, guys. Key takeaways of this weekend. WWE doesn't care about wrestling. They care about advertising. They care about investors. They care about monopolizing the industry. It's no longer the showcase of the immortals. It's the showcase of the investors. No longer are they looking for larger-than-life characters. They're looking for no character development at all. They're looking at bland storylines. They're looking at just throwing something on the wall and seeing if it'll stick. And the only thing that gives me a little bit of peace about this weekend is the fact that all of these wrestling fans from around the world that came into Las Vegas, the first thing they saw at the Vegas airport and the last thing they'll see before getting on a plane back to go home is a big LED board that reads Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, TBS, AEW Dynamite. That's the last thing they're going to see as they leave to go home is AEW Dynamite is this Wednesday. What a great marketing move Tony Khan made there. He said, you want to take the city? I'll take the airport. I'll show them the last thing that they'll see is my show. Tony Khan is thinking well ahead. What a smart marketing move. What a great investment that would have been. If you want to see a weekend of really great wrestling, wait till June in Arlington, Texas. We get StarCast. We get the Death Before Dishonor, I think, or Super Card of Honor, one of the two pay-per-view. I think Super Card of Honor is in May in Atlantic City, and then Death Before Dishonor will be in June with AEW. All In. We get All In. We get a full weekend of AEW and Ring of Honor content in Texas in June. We get May. We get Double or Nothing in Glendale, Arizona. And AEW is putting on some really good TV right now. And so as I end this, I make the plea one more time for those fans that are sitting on the fence. I hope I persuaded a few of y'all to turn into AEW this Wednesday. Just give it a shot. Because let's just be honest, even if you don't like the product, it can't be worse than what you saw this weekend. Guys, the Beyond the Junkyard podcast will be back to the live streams starting in May. It's been a busy couple of weeks in the month of April with me being on vacation. And then this week we had Collision on Thursday. And then coming up this coming Thursday's the NFL draft. So we always take that week off to do the draft live stream on the Junkyard Media Group YouTube channel and talk about pro football rather than pro wrestling for one day out of the year. So we'll be back in May with the live streams. We're going to try and up some of the content, maybe do more of these solo episodes with me and K-Dog and get more content out there. But other than that, guys, I'm Junkyard James. It's kind of all I wanted to talk about today. What an absolute clusterfuck WWE put on. From the PR nightmare that they had to start the week, where it seemed like every time somebody had a press conference talking about wrestling leading up to WrestleMania, it would be a dig or some form of shit talk about AEW. For them to put on an absolute clusterfuck of an event, you have to feel like this PR decision might have been a nightmare at the end of the day. They gave a lot of free press to AEW. They really did. And they put on that as their showcase to the world of what WWE is. They gave us that clusterfuck of a 2-night show. I don't know. I just expect better from WWE. If there's one night of the year, or 2 nights of the year, where WWE should maybe lean in and grab the hardcore fans, it would be WrestleMania weekend. Because you're going to have the casuals that tune in and tune out every now and again. You need those hardcore fans to keep your fan base alive. And I think they just maybe isolated every single hardcore wrestling fan that there is. WWE is now exclusively for the casuals. It feels. If you're a hardcore wrestling fan and you're just sick and tired of WWE, AEW's there. I hope y'all enjoyed listening to my rant and commentary on AEW Dynamite, WrestleMania, all of the stuff that we talked about, how bad WWE is trying to make the industry by monopolizing the industry. But until next time, guys, this has been another episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I'm Junkyard James. We'll see you on the other side.
Beyond the